call this meeting to order. If you would follow along with the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation from Ted Martin.
Good evening, board and guests. Please join me in prayer. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for another beautiful day in the Ozarks and a very busy summer week in Branson, Missouri. We're thankful for our residents, our businesses, and especially our visitors to come here that really recreate as they do recreation in our community. Father, we thank you for those that are serving tonight on the board. Thank you for their time and their dedication to do the business of the city. We pray that that business be honoring and glorifying to you. Father, we love you and praise you in Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Ted. Madam Clerk, we get a roll call, please?
Lucas. Denham.
Here.
Cooper.
Here.
Milton.
Here.
Howden. LeBlanc.
Here.
Schultz.
Here.
Your Honor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We're going to move into public comment. Madam Clerk, how many speakers do we have?
We have 11 speakers.
Okay, so then what we'll do with our rule of 10 or more is that we'll limit the time to 3 minutes. Is that okay? This is the public comment section of the Board of Aldermen meeting. At this time, the board will hear from citizens who have signed up in the order they are listed. Please note the clerk will let the speakers know when they have 30 seconds left, and a notification will sound when their time is up. We ask that speakers wrap up their comments upon hearing the 30-second warning. If a speaker would like a board member to bring an item from the consent agenda down for additional discussion, please note this during comments. Please come to the freestanding microphone to address the board. Madam Clerk, who do we have?
Our first speaker is Richie Zaitz, speaking on Come Places and See.
Now, I've been here a few times. I appreciate every one of you. Some of us were in the trenches together. And I'm really concerned about our nation, what's going on. I'm concerned about our cities, our children. But most of all, I'm concerned about life. And I have a document here that was signed by you. But before I start, it is the duty of all nations to acknowledge the providence of Almighty God and obey His will, and to be grateful for His benefits and humbly implore His protection and favor. You know, I found it really interesting that Mr. Trump said he's not the Savior, but he knows who is. And I think America needs to repent and come to Christ Jesus. And there was another scripture. It says, therefore, to him that knoweth do good and doeth it not, to him it is sin. Now, we all started out, you're an expert, by the way, in many ways. You know, I'm talking to you, Ralph, about health and nutrition, and you seem to have a pretty good idea of what is good. Others here were very concerned about their families at a certain time. This document, which is Resolution 2023 RO52, whereas America is built upon freedoms, rights, and responsibilities, and the city of Branson recognizes freedom and individual choice in making health decisions. I understand how you've expressed that. And local control and civic pride. I think that we love our town. We want people to come here and be safe. Whereas the COVID-19 and the state, county, local response to the pandemic caused significant hardship to the residents and businesses of Branson, city of Branson, including depriving individuals of freedom of movement. Some of them couldn't even go see their family in the hospital, which was terrible, okay? To me, that's unacceptable. And we have parameters that we can move in these situations. Whereas individuals not directly at risk have the right to choose to whether to wear a mask. There's still people wearing masks, which I find very interesting. People riding on bicycles and wearing masks. I was told by someone that if I spoke anymore, I'd be ruining my reputation, but I don't have a reputation. So what's the point? You know, what is there to run? anyway, I really don't care about that. I know there's a lot of really wild things going on in our country right now when people start shooting at our
30 seconds.
electee. Oh, 30 seconds. So what I would propose is that we look into, because you offered it to us one time, to look into the details of what is in the vaccine so that we can determine whether it's safe for children. And from what I have received from very good experts all over the country, there's 1,000% more chance of death with a child. And even Fauci said that he didn't consider it necessary for children. At least that part. If adult wants to do it, you know, I still think it should be looked into, and I'd like to have someone at least offer us an opportunity to bring research in and equate that. That's all.
Thank you, Richie.
Thank you.
you.
And I will propose that.
Madam Clerk?
Our next speaker is Gabriella Chrisman, speaking on Street Rose O'Neill Drive.
Good evening.
Me.
First of all, I'd like for everybody to look
You
at
speak in the
pictures.
mic a little bit, please. Thank you.
First of all, I'd like for everybody to look at pictures, what's happening at my house. And I am 78 years old. I'm retired, and I have to clean it up myself, okay? So, it never happened before. It's happening now. Since new stuff is gone. I went to ask the city, but let me show you the picture and then I can talk. Okay, I've lived there 30 years. I've never had this problem. This man moved across the street from me. He's got a business there. I thought we lived in a home district. I didn't know we were living in a business district. I thought it was a residential, but obviously it doesn't make any difference. So this man's got a business across. He is doing some lawn work. He's got a bunch of machineries up there. He's doing a driveway for himself. He's covered up the sewer line. So covering up the sewer line, putting the stuff in that he's doing his driveway with is coming in my garage. I've got pictures of what's coming in my garage. It's destroyed everything. My garden, my flowers, I've got a little pond with fish. It's all destroyed because of the man. So when it started to happen, I know the rain is an act of God. I do not say it's the rain. What I'm saying is the stuff that he's putting in, him closing up the system, the sewer, the drain line to go down to the drain ditch. That's his responsibility. It's not God. It's him. And I've asked for help. I called Marshall. Marshall told me he'd come up and see it. Never seen him. He'd never seen my vote. But I'll tell you, I have been going through the city and stuff like that, trying to get help. I don't know if I have to go to Jefferson City. I don't know if I have to go to KY3. I do not know how I can get some help. Okay,
30
what
seconds.
really upset me is the man was going down. I asked him, I says, look what's going on. Look what's happening in my house. It's ruining my house. And he looked at me. He was in his truck, and he says, everybody's got problem. F you. But he didn't say the F you. He said the whole thing and drove off. Okay? Is this what we have to live with? Is this the abuse that I have to take for paying taxes? I want some help. If anybody can help me, please let me know. If you can, I don't know what steps I have to take, but I am so upset. I am going to take further steps.
Gabrielle,
Thank you. Thank you for listening to me.
I'm going to have our city administrator. She will get on this. She just needs to, you have her contact information?
Did Marshall call you? He said he would.
I think it'd probably be really good if we could just for sure get your contact information tonight, and then I'm more than happy to follow up with you.
Thank you, because I've
Thank
been
you.
upstairs, I've been over here, I've been all over. I don't know where else to go, but I will go further.
You came to the right place tonight.
Yes, you did.
Amen.
Yes.
Gabrielle, if you'll go see Alex, we'll take care of that.
Our next speaker is Ty-Ann Marsink, speaking on short-term rental ordinance.
Right? Are you okay if you wait, so we'll cover all this? Thank you very much. Anybody here to talk about the short-term rental? I would encourage you, you can always have public comment. But when that comes up on our agenda, which will be very soon, allow the staff to go through their changes, and then they will address any questions that you have.
So our next speaker is Nat Hammond, also speaking on the short-term rental ordinance. So,
Matt, you good? Thank you.
okay, and Carolyn Boss. So sorry, she's speaking on candidate for state representative.
Great. Hi, my name is Carolyn Boss, and I'm running for the state representative. Oh, we have to do that one? Okay. Thank you. No worries. Thank you. My name is Carolyn Boss, and I'm running for the state representative 156 for our area. I'm a mom, I'm a citizen, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm not a politician. I see underserved needs in our community, and I've heard from my constituents because I am a elected school board member. And so they have brought it to me that they would like more representation. And so I want to bring a choice to the Republican primary ticket. I think it's good for our community to have a choice, and we have two excellent choices to make. I believe that the time is now, and I want to protect our children. We have online dangers from platforms that want to take our children and indoctrinate them. I want to make those algorithms transparent so that we can do something about it. I don't like to hear Instagram sending explicit pictures down to our young kids.
Point of order.
Yes?
I don't believe this is city business. While I respect the fact we've got a candidate that's running for office, I fail to see how this is city business.
You know, I invited Carolyn
Thank
to
you,
come because it is election and she's running for our district. And so I felt it was appropriate to listen to what she says.
Thank you.
Did we invite all the other candidates?
I invited Brian Seitz. And that's the only other candidate.
We have a senatorial candidate, we have others.
Well, Representative Sotz couldn't make it tonight because he's with Hudson at a function tonight.
It's your call. I don't feel this is city business.
Okay. Go ahead, Carolyn.
Thank you. I want to protect our constitutional rights, and I want to say thank you for giving us freedom to say what we need to say. I also want to protect our other rights that we have, which is the freedom to gather together and worship, the freedom to right to bear arms and to protect ourselves. President Reagan said that government is meant to protect the people and not control them. I want to see more robust discussions about licensing. Did you know that our firefighters are going to Arkansas to get licensed because there's such a backlog? And I want to see that red tape get diminished so that we can get our doctors licensed, our nurses licensed, and our firefighters licensed in our state so that they can serve our community. And I want to say that I served on 2 national tourism boards, so I understand that tourism is an economic driver, and I will protect that at all costs. I was surprised to learn that our state did not fund the tourism budget to the state statute formula, and I will work hard to do that because we have work to do. I've seen the pictures for our 76 CID project, and it's beautiful. And I want to make sure, listen, we're number 2 in the state for visitor spending back to the state revenue budget, and I want to see that come back down. Those are just a couple things. I thank you for those of you that have met with me personally and for inviting me to the board tonight. I just want to say that our district is worth fighting for, and that's what I'm doing. As a realtor, I fight for property rights and making sure the squatters do not have any rights on our properties. and also our usages. And I just want to say that it's your choice. It is your state, it's your district, it's your voice and your choice. And so August 6th is coming, and I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
thank you, Carolyn, for coming tonight to speak. And you did mention that you did invite the board to meet with you. And I took the opportunity to come and meet with you. That was back in June. Because my interest was, you focus heavily on choice, so I wanted to know what we had a choice of. So I did ask you what the differences were, because Representative Seitz has represented us very well over his past 2 terms. And I just I was concerned because there was no different, what is the difference between what you're offering and what Mr. Seitz is? So, and then I thought it was odd because this board and the mayor and our firefighters union and some others have already endorsed Representative Seitz. So I'm just a little confused about all this. Thanks for coming.
Do I have an opportunity to answer that?
Sure.
Okay, just real quick. The whole idea to get engagement in the community, to get them out.
Just a minute. Before this goes too far.
Yes,
We need to always be cognizant of limitations in regards to our involvement in elections. And so it's probably best we leave where we're at.
thank you for sharing, Carolyn.
Well, thank you so much. I'll be glad to have a cup of coffee with anybody.
Our next speaker is Don Wazaleski, speaking on the short-term rental ordinance.
Thank you, Don.
And Martha Treese, speaking on fire suppression.
I'm a little late to this party because I think a lot of it's been about the first part of this, the short-term rental. But my husband and I have short-term rentals down in the Oklahoma Street, 3rd Street area of Old Downtown. And we put in, between the 2 homes, we spent $30,000 to $35,000 in fire suppression equipment and commercial water lines going into the homes. And now we're being told that that is going to be no longer required, which our competitors have never done to start with. And I guess I'm just seeing that as just genuinely unfair. And is there any thoughts about what the compensation is to people like us that did follow the rules? I have a legitimate certificate of occupancy and have spent an inordinate amount of money and had to put in these commercial water lines, which I still pay for, had the roads dug up, had to pay for the repair of that. And so, with it said, these small homes all of a sudden are now no longer have to do this. And it was told to me when we did it, which was approximately 3 to 4 years ago, that it was just what it had to be. If we were going to have people into these places, we had to be treated, we had to make sure that they were safe. And so I guess I'm just thinking, is there a tax rebate, some tax credit? Is there something that can be done for the people that went to the extent that you guys asked? We followed the codes and spent a great deal of money. I mean, I can dig out all my tax records and show what it was, but it's $30,000 to $35,000 that we had invested. And so I guess I just think that that is something that needs to be addressed or thought about, because I think when more people find out that their homes didn't have to have it now, and they've spent that kind of money, I think it's just kind of disappointing. Trying to think if there's anything else I was going to add very quickly. But I do think that some kind of compensation to owners that did follow rules that could prove that they spent an inordinate amount of money to have commercial water lines put into their homes. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha.
Our next speaker is Lane McConnell, speaking on pool.
Thank you, Lane.
Our next speaker is Mark Mousy, speaking on short-term rental ordinance.
Thank you, Mark.
And Ryan Muir, speaking on nightly rental.
Thank you, Ryan.
And Gary Groman, speaking on public comment.
Thank you for waiting, Gary. Just kidding.
In keeping with the board's desire to get input from the public in a manner that is most effective for them, and as importantly, persons scheduled on the meeting's agenda, city staff and you, I suggest the following. Based on my 30 years of experience with public comments, this admittedly out-of-the-box approach will get 99% plus of the first-time public comment speakers heard within the first 9 minutes of the meeting, while permitting you and those scheduled on the agenda to proceed with the city's official business in a timely and effective manner. This while not denying anyone who wants to speak during public comment the chance to do so. My printer went into Fritz, so I got to use this smartphone, which when I use it, that's a misnomer. All those desiring to speak during public comment sign up exactly as they do now. A simple database takes the information and sorts it by date, time of sign-in, last name, and first name. It compares the name with the last time the speaker has spoken during the public comment and automatically assigns them to either the expedited public comment period at the beginning of the meeting or the regular public comment period at the end of the meeting. The expedited public comment period would be limited to those who have not spoken during the expedited public comment period within the last 4, or whatever number you set, meetings. They would speak in the order in which they signed up. Based on my personal experience over the last 30 years speaking at public comment, and I think I might hold the record for it, even with limiting the expedited period to 3 speakers, 99% of the first-time speakers will be accommodated, and in over 50% of the time, there will be no speakers for expedited public comment session, thus permitting the meeting to seamlessly move on to the next item on the agenda. Those signing up not meeting the criteria for the expedited public comment period would automatically speak during the public comment period at the end of the meeting in the order in which they signed up. This simple system seems to provide a solution that permits the first-timers and those who have not spoken during the expedited public comment period within the last 4, or whatever number you want, to speak on a priority basis while permitting the city to conduct this business meeting in a timely and effective manner while giving everyone who wants to speak during the public comment time to do so.
30 seconds.
If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. But first, I got to say, how does a Missouri fireman get certified in Arkansas to be a fireman in Missouri? I'm having a tough time with that. But anyway, I'd be happy to answer any comments you've got on what I said.
Gary, I appreciate that. And
Do you have any
obviously,
questions?
what you're trying to do is streamline and make our public comments section more efficient, right?
Right.
I appreciate that. I would ask you, Gary, if you wouldn't mind, send that text over to Kathy and let her chew on that and see if we can improve our public comment section.
I would write it up a lot more detailed, but if there's absolutely no interest, I don't want to waste your time or my time.
Well,
Or Kathy's time.
I have an interest.
Okay, then it'll be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Anybody else have any questions, comments? Thank you.
Artie?
Would that have precluded you from speaking tonight?
Absolutely. It would have put me right. So when I have to make the decision, now, speaking at the end of the normal meetings, no big thing. It happens all the time. I'd have to make the decision. If it's important enough for me to stay to the end of the meeting, that's fine. Hopefully, I'll live long enough. If it's not, that when the 4 weeks are up, I'll get one shot at the expedited time. It really doesn't penalize anybody at all. Even tonight, with the 11 people that you had, now a lot of them, if we just said during public comment, hold your public comments until we bring up the agenda item automatically, and most people do that, this system would have taken care of them with 11. And we don't normally have 11 unless it's something exciting like drag queens or something like that.
Thank you, Gary.
Yes, sir.
There are no more speakers.
Thank you, Hillary. So next is the consent agenda. Are there any items that any member of the board would like to have moved down from the consent agenda to ask additional questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to move items 3 and 4 to be removed from the consent agenda and placed as the first and second items on the regular agenda.
Madam Clerk, would you please read the items on the consent agenda as amended?
Your Honor, the items on the consent agenda are as follows. Approval of the Board of Aldermen minutes for the July 9th, 2024 regular meeting. Acknowledgement of disbursements for June 20th, 2024 through July 2nd, 2024. Final reading of Bill Number 6467, an ordinance amending Section 86-622, Schedule 2 of the Branson Municipal Code pertaining to speed limits. Final reading of Bill Number 6468, an ordinance amending the adopted 2024 budget for the City of Branson to adjust monies in the Public Safety Police Internal Service Fund for an increase in the budget for costs necessary for police dispatch design. Final reading of Bill Number 6470, an ordinance approving participation by the City of Branson, Missouri in a new national opioid settlement with Kroger Company and authorizing the mayor to execute the documents related thereto. And final reading of Bill Number 6471, an ordinance approving the intergovernmental agreement with Taney County for the county to provide funding towards the cost of the city's planned 2024 public sewer collection system rehabilitation and authorizing the mayor to execute the contract. Your Honor, that concludes the reading of the consent agenda.
Thank you, Hillary. Do I have a motion approving all items in the consent agenda?
So move.
Second.
Motion is second. Madam Clerk, provide a roll call vote, please.
Lucas?
Yes.
Denham?
Yes.
Cooper?
Yes.
Howden? LeBlanc?
Yes.
Schultz?
Yes.
The results of the vote is 5-0, motion carries. Your Honor, this is the final reading of Bill Number 6465, an ordinance amending Chapter 22 and Appendix A fee schedule of the Branson Municipal Code pertaining to short-term rentals.
You've heard the final reading of Bill 6465. Do I have a motion approving this bill?
So move.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second, and we'll now get a staff report from Alex.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. Before you this evening for your consideration is our final ordinance for short-term rentals. On behalf of City Hall staff, I'd like to thank the numerous local business owners and stakeholders who have contributed over the past few weeks on this important topic. Active participation from the public is a critical mechanism for our municipality to better understand the needs of our community, consider different points of view, improve the quality of our policymaking, and ensure our city government reflects the values of the community we dearly serve. At City Hall, we recognize and appreciate also the investment, risk, and heart that go into running a business in Branson. The short-term rental industry is a vital contributor to a thriving Branson tourism economy. Similar to the business owners in the audience tonight, like you here at City Hall, we also seek to build Branson's premier brand, keep our visitors safe, and move our city forward together. With this mindset as our guiding principle, through our study sessions, open public comment, written feedback, and listening sessions, we have sought with open ears to approach and better understand this industry in order to craft sideboards that are measured, balanced, and are stakeholder vetted, all with the intent of ensuring an equal regulatory playing field for businesses who share our goal of promoting Branson's tourism brand and protecting the life and safety of our valued guests visiting our city. In drafting this ordinance, we took to heart the careful balance of creating policy that is business-friendly, is clear to understand and enforce, and ensures the minimum protections to safeguard property, life, and safety. Good policy is the result of a comprehensive cycle of identifying problems, stakeholder outreach, measured solutions, and clear methods of implementation. Good legislation, on the other hand, is the result of checks and balances, compromise, and the pursuit of implementing good policy into law. As you will see, the vast majority of the feedback we received was largely adopted into our current version. Namely, we incorporated key requested changes spanning across advertising, auditing, and fire and sprinkler alarm requirements. And although we strived hard to incorporate all suggestions, it is also our role as local government to weigh both the needed protections and the impact to not only businesses, but also the general public and end users, who rightfully should expect a safe and healthy visit while in Branson. So as I mentioned, good legislation often strikes a balance based on measured solutions and compromise from every participant, from government and industry alike. So I kindly ask that everyone here this evening respects this delicate balance. And although there may be disagreement on certain provisions yet, that we all keep in mind the larger, healthy goals this ordinance seeks to achieve in promoting a vibrant, short-term rental industry here in Branson. So I'd like to invite now Cherie Pfeiffer, our finance director, to the podium to highlight the provisions of this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Good evening, Board, Mr. Mayor, Ms. Kathy. This initiative has been an incredible example of teamwork. We're so grateful that this city, we're in a city where multiple departments do work together, a city where the city administration, the mayor, and the aldermen are willing to sacrifice their time and share their insight, a city where the community cares, where the community chooses to be involved in their local government. This shows that Branson is a family-friendly place where we can all get together to work, live, play, and grow as a community. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you all. Okay. All right, so 2 weeks ago, we presented the new short-term rental code to this board. Since then, we have encouraged and received feedback from our short-term rental business owners by way of email, an open forum discussion, and a survey that was sent to all our licensed short-term rental business owners. Our survey hit on every point of the ordinance. Just shy of 50 responses, our survey showed that of those surveyed, the majority of those results were either positive or neutral. Under each question was a place for comments that we used for further discussion. Okay, so to refresh everyone's memory, the following are the pieces of codes that we presented to the Board of Aldermen 2 weeks ago. First, we created Article 6, short-term rentals, inside of Chapter 22, business licensing. In Article 6, we used 3 lenses to filter any additions: safety, simplicity, and growth. To facilitate safer environments for our visitors, we are adding an emergency plan to be posted in every short-term rental. We're requiring every short-term rental property to have a fire inspection, and we're creating a short-term rental permit. To facilitate simplicity, we're implementing a notification of changes window for both the business license application and the short-term rental permit application. When information changes, we'll be able to get it updated within 14 days. And we're also implementing a transferable fire inspection that will be good for 3 years. And then for the growth, we added pieces that encourage progress for the city. So we're changing the fee scale to $100 per unit versus an employee-based structure. We're purging of incomplete applications after 60 days and adding the addition of short-term rental permit, which will allow us to manage the short-term rentals in Branson as the city and the short-term rental industry grows. Okay. Now we're going to dive into a little bit more detail. We'll do a quick run-through of our amendments to the short-term rental code from the last meeting. Some of the changes only impact the wording of the section to make it clearer. For the sake of time, we won't go over each and every word change. We will just cover the changes that will have an impact. So starting in code section 22-1, we added the definition of dwelling unit. This definition adds clarity to the various types of structures that short-term rentals are in. Also, in Code Section 22-1, we changed the definition of property manager. This change will allow for clarity as well, but also built in protection for the business owner's identity and proprietary information. The definition of short-term rental owner has also been tweaked to better suit the new definition of property manager. In Code Section 22-453, property manager, we omitted the requirement of the distribution of records to the property owner and the requirement for the property manager to respond to the unit in the event of emergency within an hour. In Section 22-454, fire inspections, we gave a 6-month window of time for the inspections to be completed prior to the business license expiration. We omitted the requirement that the short-term rental owner provide proof to the city of the fire inspection because we'll be performing it, we'll have it on hand. So, and then Code Section 22-455 has been changed from the DBA or the business name required on advertisements to a short-term rental license number that will be provided by finance. The number does not need to be in the title of the advertisement, but rather it can be in the property description section. All right. Code Section 22-456. All right, the tourism tax deposit has been entirely rewritten. A lot of feedback stressed that this section felt unclear. We worked to rewrite it in a way that's easier to understand going forward, mainly if the applicant has a recent 3 consecutive year history of timely tourism tax payments, no new deposit is required. Code Section 22-459, Safety Measures. A large portion was omitted as it was redundant to Code Section 22-472. We removed the duplicate information as well as the need for child-proof safety outlets. Code Section 22-460, Records. Line D about online booking platforms has been omitted for the record requirements. Okay. Code Section 22-472, Short-term rental permits. In an effort to streamline the process for our short-term rental business owners, we simplified the step to allow the finance department to facilitate the permitting process. And for our last change, the term safety plan has been changed to emergency plan to go along with the fire code. And that's all the amendment changes that we have made to the last code that was presented to the board 2 weeks ago. Now, based on the feedback that we received from our short-term rental owners, we have also figured out ways to ease the paperwork burden for them. Their application, renewal application, and monthly tourism tax remittance will be a very similar process to what they're currently doing. They will fill out just one application, but will list all the properties they manage and the needed information for each. We are working on examples and fillable Adobe forms to provide our short-term rental managers to make this process easier. Okay, and we plan to work with our IT department to create a web landing page for all things short-term rental. So on the City of Branson website, we're going to have forms available for like pre-inspection checklists from the fire department. Any Adobe forms that we can make fillable for you, we'll have those. We'll have examples. Just anything to make the short-term rentals property manager's job easier, we plan to put that on the website for you guys. And then while I still have the floor, I want to do a special thank you to Haley Mendoza and Matthew Henry. They have put a lot of work into this. This has been a really, really big project. Just thank you guys for everything that you do. And a big thank you to everyone else that has participated and provided feedback. Just thank you all.
Sheree?
Yes, sir.
I want to say I really appreciate, and it's clear how much time and effort you and others within the city have worked on this. And you've invested the time to work on it based on what we heard from our short-term rental business owners or property managers. I appreciate that very much. I know our board appreciates that very much. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board for Sheree? Okay. Are there any, now's the time for the questions and answers from our guest. Don says, I'll go first.
My name is Don Wasilewski with Branson Knights, 240 Wimbledon. For the first time ever, I have not typed anything up. I just wanted to come and say a few things. From the study session that I attended in April to now 2 Alderman meetings regarding this, and then the Friday listening session, you guys really set the tone for what I would love to see the U.S. Congress do someday. Listen to its constituents and actually act on it. It was refreshing Friday to have some give and take with all the aldermen at the previous meetings as well. And Sheree, I think we had a heated discussion about some of the topics privately, and she listened to us. And I challenged her on a few things, and she had great comebacks to that. I'm really impressed with this whole process. I don't usually come to these meetings. But this obviously is existential to my family and how I pay my bills and keep food on the table. So I just want to give a quick couple shout outs to the people that really made this possible. First, to all of you aldermen for taking the time and your willingness to listen to us and hear our concerns instead of just slamming it down our throats. I appreciate that. Kathy, specifically to you for the investment that you took of your own time to really show sincerity and integrity in all of this. I'd like to thank all the property managers and fellow owners that we have here in the audience tonight and that have been to the previous meetings. Without their input and without their feedback, things that I wouldn't have thought about otherwise, they've provided as well. It helped make this a more effective experience. Would like to thank the ladies that are here tonight that sit behind the window and take my money every month. I do appreciate you. And I'd like to thank Cherie, Haley, and Matthew for all their hard work, and the attorneys that all the time you guys put into it, your professionalism and your integrity that you guys have shown. I know how comfortable you are speaking in front of people, and you guys both, all three of you guys did a great job, and it's appreciated. And finally, I'd like to thank one specific person that is here tonight. They say the most beautiful name, I learned this in sales many years ago, the most beautiful word that you'll ever hear is your own name. And so I implement that whenever I talk to my guests. Every time that I walk in, Hillary has made it a point to know how to say my last name correctly. And that's really appreciated. It takes away the anxiety and the stress of being here. So thank you, Hillary. I appreciate you.
It's a fun name.
And that's all. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Don. I can't say the last name, but thank you for speaking for everybody. Let's go. Let's vote. No.
Not so fast, Alderman.
Gosh, I'm shorter. I'm Tyann Marsink with Branson Family Retreats. Thank you so much for the discussion by email that we've had this past week, Kathy, you especially. I just want to commend you guys. Kathy and staff, Cherie, you guys have made a model ordinance that the country will be looking at, and I'm going to make sure of that. Very, very well done. Now, I'm not going to go any further on that. Don's done a lot here. So there's just two things I wanted to bring up. One I'd emailed you about is staggering the inspections, so you don't have 1,600 to do within 6 months every 3 years. So considering very carefully the load that you're putting on your fire department and your staff. And then the second one is just a question. The emergency plan that you have us do, I think it's fabulous. I do most of those already. But my question is, do you require every single business license holder in the city to have that emergency plan, not only on that entrance exit door, but every single bedroom door in the entire building as well? Because that's a lot. That's it. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Ryan.
Hello again. I'm Ryan Muir with Roaming Home Properties, among others in the area, and I also have the same sentiments. I do very much appreciate this whole process, and it's been great. That said, I still don't agree with some of it. When I started this, I started diving into it just because I didn't agree with some of the things in the first reading, and when I did that, it just led to other things. And whether or not I agree with the intent of the ordinance is not really my first point. But if I was in y'all's position voting on this tonight, I would vote no, simply because of the fact that when I dove into it, it does not appear to be legal by Missouri statutes at this point, which is why in the ordinance we have this weird, awkward definition of nightly rentals as hotels in lines 47 through 53, claiming that nightly rentals could also provide meals and entertainment and various personal services, and therefore they're defined as hotels. I don't do that at any of mine. I don't provide meals, entertainment, anything else. So just seems like a very awkward definition to have put in there for the purpose of being able to regulate this. Still assuming that this is going to go forward, I'd like to make my other points that I would just still like to see changed in this and think it just needs a little bit more work. It was stated that there were changes made to continue to have that separation for homeowners and business owners to not have their names released. But when you read it, it's really, it's still in there. It's still asking for, and even more defined now, specifying the natural person, where before it was a little bit in there, it just said person, where I would have just put my business name. Now it is definitely specifying natural person. So that separation in my whole business structure, and you might be asking, what does this guy have to hide? I don't have anything to hide, except for I have personally been attacked from frivolous lawsuits in the past, which has led me to hire attorneys to not have that issue again, or at least make it a little bit more difficult. I mean, the federal government had to pass a law to request my beneficial ownership information. They had to pass a whole separate law and create a new website for all that fence and stuff. I'm sure a lot of people have gone through that recently for that beneficial ownership information. So if the intent is really to still allow that separation and not have our personal information, I just don't think it's currently written in there that way. That's my biggest problem with it currently. And then as far as the business license on all advertisements, I really don't have a problem putting it in our listing, but it says on all advertisements. There's a lot of advertising going on Facebook and stuff. It's really weird to have to put business license information on all advertisements, and that's how it's written in here. And then lastly, the signed and notarized, it's the notarized portion of the property management agreement. It's like we all have enough to do rather than us both needing an owner to go to a notary, for me to go to a notary. It's just seems like an extra requirement that isn't necessary in my opinion. And those are my points. Thank you for hearing me.
Ryan, thank you very much.
Hello again, Scott McAdera with, Hello again, Scott McAdera with Branson Lakes Lodging. I'd be very brief and apologize for being late. My first point was with the signed and notarized document as well. We already process electronic signatures with our hosts, our owners, and we can provide copies of contracts if necessary. But to have something signed and notarized, especially when people are out of state, a lot of times puts a heavy burden on them as well as us to get that done in a timely fashion. And I don't know if I missed it, but I still didn't see a section in the ordinance that states that there will be one business license with multiple locations on the business license. I didn't see that language in there, so I just want to make sure that that's clearly spelled out so that we don't misconstrue or there's no ambiguity as to what actually needs to happen as part of the ordinance in order to register multiple locations. Again, the license number, I have no problem putting it in the listings themselves, but again, controlling whether or not someone posts one of our places on Instagram that may or may not be our advertisement, but it advertises our place, that's going to be kind of impossible for us to control. So maybe some tighter language around where that requirement is, and say maybe on the online travel agencies, the OTAs that's required, or on your primary listings that's required, or any advertising that originates from your company is required, might be a little bit easier to handle. And then I think Tyan said the all doors requirement for a evacuation map. And also, I think that's burdensome, especially in 1 and 2 bedroom condos. When the exit's clearly marked on the original map. And then I didn't understand the purpose of showing where smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors are located. If those are going off, people are going to know where they are. Having to know where they are, just to know where they are, doesn't seem to be beneficial. Knowing where a fire extinguisher is, 100%. First aid kit, no problem. But knowing the location of each individual fire smoke detector and carbon monoxide detector seems a bit odd. And then the last issue was the parking map and being able to have a place to show where people are supposed to park. Most of the properties we manage have designated parking now, or in a condo where you can park anywhere. So let's say Point Royale, for example. Dawn, are we supposed to show them a whole map of all of Point Royale and say, park anywhere? I get it for places that maybe you have one condo that's rented and you have privately owned condos, and that there's designated parking spots for those, but where it's just kind of a parking free-for-all, I couldn't see much of a point. And to have that on each and every single door, like on a bedroom, I can see maybe having the route plan and numbers, but like, here's your parking map on a bedroom door. It just seemed kind of silly to me. But anyway, I also wanted to say thank you so much. This new ordinance is much, much better than the original reading. And I think it's going to do a lot to help improve this whole process in the city and make sure people are compliant. So thank you for listening, and thank you for taking this very seriously. It's a beautiful, big part of our community, and I'd love to see it continue to grow, but done correctly. So thank you.
Scott, thank you very much.
Hi, Mark Mosey, Branson Vacation Rentals. I do really appreciate the process that you've helped us participate in, and it's been very helpful to know that you do care about our concerns. I do have just some questions of clarification. Is that appropriate right now?
Sure.
Okay. So after reading through it a couple of times, I still couldn't determine whether every unit has to have both a short-term rental permit and a business license.
Just go ahead and list your questions, and then we'll have our director do the wrap-up after the public comment's done.
Also, I was not clear on whether we are going to be able to continue to pay the tourism tax. Like, say I have 80 units, I collect the tax, can I pay all 80, or do they have to be paid separately? And then related to the deposit for the tourism tax, is that still, if I have paid my deposit or whatever it's called, I manage 80 units, does that suffice? Since I'm paying the tax, does that suffice for the deposit, or does each person who has not had the permit before and has a unit, are they going to have to make a new deposit? I would also agree that the parking map does seem quite excessive, considering either they're marked or there's no parking designated. So that seems pretty clear to me, and would create a lot of work, creating those maps for each unit. And also notarizing the documents. If I have 80 units, that's a lot of documents to get notarized. So some help there would be appreciated. We have in the safety plan, one thing that I would ask, and this may have been discussed, I'm sure it's been discussed, and I'm sure that there's reasons that there's not, but when there's a storm coming and guests ask us where the storm shelter is, we haven't been able to locate that there are any designated storm shelters in the city. And so that would be helpful if you could find some solution to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Ryan Muir again. I had one clarification I just wanted to understand better. Is it intentional that primary residences are now allowed to nightly rent? Because it was clearly excluded from the definition of short-term rentals. I'd be happy about that, but I just don't think that that was the intent. And if it was, then I'd be happy about it.
Thank you, Ryan. Anyone else? So, Cherie, would you come back up?
I'm going to answer the questions that I can answer. So, Scott, we did remove where you have to specify where all the smoke detectors are. You just have to say where the fire extinguishers are and where the exits are.
Cherie, pardon me. Just go ahead and direct your answers right up here to
I'm
the
sorry.
board. And
Okay.
thank you.
As far as concerns as being able to do all the inspections in a timely manner, we did meet with fire. They calculated the time that it would need to be able to do all 1,600 inspections, and they felt like they could meet that within a 3-month period. We doubled that, so we gave a grace period of, we're doing it prior 6 months, so we should have more than sufficient time to get all the inspections done. And then eventually, over time, as new businesses come on and old businesses leave, we will have that staggering effect.
So what I'm hearing you say is, on the next licensing cycle, May 1st, that the businesses, you can go online, fill out your information 6 months in advance. So as business, as you sign up your properties, the fire chief did some calculations, and he felt like having a 6-month period of time to go and inspect each of these properties would give him plenty of time. And he also shared that these inspections, he doesn't expect them to take, very long, 10, 15 minutes. He's only going through and inspecting a few things.
Right.
So as the, and you'll be getting notice of when you can start filling out your information online.
Right. As we gather more information and we get our fillable forms done and we get our city website page done, we will send out a link to all the short-term rental owners that we have the email address for, so that you guys know it's up and running and it's live. What we want to do is, starting November 1st, we'll start the permitting process, so you guys can reach out to us, get that scheduled, and your inspections are good for 3 years. So let me see. So the notary, the reason we wanted the owner's permission notarized was we do know of instances where property managers rented property that they didn't have consent to rent. And with us in our business, it's once we have that, we're good, but that was the reason it was written that way. Let me see. Let's see, we did say we want the emergency plan on the exits and each bedroom door. So not every door, but the bedrooms, doors, and the exits.
You feel okay with that, Kathy?
Well, the thought during some of the conversations that we had to do with people being in a strange environment. Maybe the power goes out, and you're in an unknown bedroom, or you wake up in the middle of the night, whatever it is, and you're a little bit uncertain and confused, and making sure that there's a plan that's right on the back of that door, we felt would be in the best interest of the safety of the inhabitants.
Right. And once you get it completed, you'll just make a copy and put it on your doors. And I think, we see that it will add value to the short-term rentals, to our visitors. They will see that we care and that you guys care. And then, just to provide examples, like, some of the issues, where some of the stuff is coming from, like we had some visitors from, say, up north, and we had a tornado, July 3rd, and they all went out to their car. They didn't know what to do during a tornado. So these are things, tornado, floodings, things that we experience here in the Ozarks, to let them know how to handle if those situations arise. Every unit or every short-term rental property will have to have a short-term rental license and a short-term rental permit. You can submit all your paperwork together. So if you're a property manager and you have 100 properties, you will just do one application, and then you'll list all your properties and the necessary information that we need to be able to process that. And that goes for your application, a renewal application, or your monthly tourism remittance. So you could just cut us one check, and we'll do the breakdown, and we'll do all the work on our side. So we wanted to ease the burden of paperwork on you guys, and we're still doing all the stuff on our side to process it individually.
Mayor, can I interrupt real
You
quick?
bet.
Cherie, I know we did have conversations about these emergency plans and whatnot. I think that's something we can take under advisement, to look into the requirement to have it on the back of each bedroom door. So let us flesh that out a little bit more. It's a small thing for us to talk about inside. And then with all these different ideas or questions, if we end up thinking, yeah, that makes sense, maybe we should do that too, we can always bring an amendment back to the board. So when Alex made his opening comments about good legislation is never final, right? Because times change, life changes, and circumstances do too, and we need to be dynamic as government to be able to respond to what the needs are of the regulated as well as the end user and the consumer. So we want to be sensitive to that all around. So I think something like that, we can have an internal discussion. There's a couple other things you brought up, like the notarization. Maybe there's a DocuSign opportunity there, right? Get with it into the century. We're working on it. So you guys are bringing up some good points tonight. Go ahead, Cherie.
Okay. And also with this ordinance, the property manager drives everything. So the property manager will be the one filling out the applications. The property manager will be the one paying the tourism tax. The property manager, which could be a property owner as well, but the property manager is what drives everything. And then also the deposit for the tourism, if you are a property manager and you've done business with the city of Branson for 3 consecutive years and you paid your tourism tax timely, then no, you do not have to give us a new deposit. I think I've answered all the questions I can.
Did she touch on the listing each smoke detector and carbon?
Yeah.
Oh, was that while I was out? Okay.
Yeah, that's been removed.
Okay, good.
Cherie, did you address on the tourism tax payment, the way that we accept payments? Did we made that easier and more streamlined? Is
Yes,
that right?
it's an internal process, but they can just provide us one monthly, it's just a form they fill, and then they'll put all the properties and the information that we need to process it. So and they could just cut one check, and we'll individually apply it to each property that they have. And we will have examples of that on our short-term rental website and hope to make it easier for you guys. And then, Ryan, yeah, in the new version, we did remove the smoke detectors, so, yeah. Any more?
So does the board have any additional questions for Cherie? No? Clay, did you have anything you wanted to share?
Your Honor, I move to amend Bill number 6465 to incorporate all of the changes indicated in red on the document titled Redlined Version of Proposed Amendments to Bill number 6465 dated July 22nd, 2024.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Anyone in the audience wishing to speak regarding this matter? Please.
Sorry, just one last time. I believe I have the redlined version here in my hand where lines 436 through 438 specifically say smoke detectors, fire extinguishers, and carbon monoxide detectors.
Mayor, if I may, that was updated on our website yesterday evening. So it's the red line version dated July 22nd, 2024. It is available on our website. So there
Okay.
is an updated version
Great.
that they just made the motion to make the
thank you.
changes.
Thank you, Ryan. So let's vote on the amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it.
So Mayor,
Yeah.
we have a motion and second on the floor for a final read. You just voted on the amendment, so now we just need to vote on the bill as amended to
I
complete.
see, yeah, I see that now. So Madam Clerk, since this is the final reading, would you provide a roll call vote?
Lucas,
Yes.
Denham,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Howden, LeBlanc,
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
The result of the vote is 5-0, motion carries. Your Honor, this is the final reading of Bill number 6466, an ordinance amending Chapter 42 regarding Sections 903 and 907 of Branson Municipal Code pertaining to the International Fire Code.
So you've heard the final reading of Bill 6466. Do I have a motion approving this bill?
So move.
We have a motion and a second. We'll get a staff report from Ted.
Mayor, members of the board, 2 weeks ago, we presented a proposed change to the International Fire Code. As we did amendments on the last series, there are 4 key points to share for some amendments on this code as well. One is we mirrored the definitions to make sure that they were clear and concise with both codes. 2, we modified the emergency plan language as we've just discussed as well, so it's consistent with the previous ordinance. 3, we worked on some of that terminology like the detached home versus a single-family home. And then finally, we would also support that mission to work on our websites to get more information out for the public. So that's the key changes to this code as set.
Any board member have a question for Ted? No? Anybody in the audience have a question or comments? Any aldermen?
Your Honor, I move to amend Bill number 6466 to incorporate all the changes indicated in red on the document titled Red Line Version of Proposed Amendments to Bill number 6466 dated July 22nd, 2024.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Anybody in the audience wishing to speak to this? Any aldermen? Let's vote on the amendment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. So, Madam Clerk, we're going to go for a final read. Would you please provide a roll call vote?
Lucas,
Yes.
Denham,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Howden, LeBlanc,
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
The result of the vote is 5-0, motion carries.
I want to personally thank, and I know the board would like to thank, all of the business owners that helped us make an ordinance that's good for all. You can this is a great example of this is your wheelhouse, right? It's not our wheelhouse. So as we write something, we write it to the best of our knowledge. But having your expertise, the input, obviously, made a big difference. So we take our hat off to you. Thank you.
Your Honor, the next item is a presentation of Indoor Aquatic Center survey.
We'll get a staff report from Cindy Shuck.
Nobody wants to stay for the. Mr. Mayor, members of the board, thank you for welcoming us tonight. I'm going to turn this over to Megan Connell from Skaggs Foundation and Darren Barr, and they're going to give the presentation.
Hello, Megan.
Hi, good evening. I thank you so much for allowing us to address the results from phase 1 of our feasibility study of an indoor pool. The Skaggs Foundation Board of Directors, they commissioned this study because our mission is to support health and wellness initiatives throughout Stone and Taney counties. And so we have hired a company, Darren Barr is part of the company, it's Ballard King, and there are 2 phases of this study. At this point, we have completed phase 1, and he is here to share those results with you today.
Welcome, Darren.
Hello. Where's the next button for the? Just need. Oh, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, it's the
Perfect.
large button there.
Very happy to be here again. My name is Darren Barr, president of Ballard King and Associates. We are a facility planning and operations consulting firm based out of Denver, Colorado. We were doing remote work before COVID made everybody do remote work, so my home office is in Columbia. So anytime I can drive to a project, it's a local project. So excited about that and excited to share this information with you. The survey was a portion of the first phase of work that we went ahead and completed. It was completed by ETC Institute. They're based out of Olathe, Kansas. They've done work across the country. The goal was to go ahead and collect 300 surveys between Stone and Tammany counties. There was a total of 542 surveys collected, and there was an equal distribution across both counties. We're going to go through some of what we identified as maybe the important questions through the survey in terms of the responses. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the market information that we went ahead and collected, and we're going to talk about next steps and where we feel like the city council can be helpful. So when we went ahead and we asked folks if they'd heard about the Skaggs Foundation in the promotion of health and wellness throughout the two counties, 64% said yes, which was a great number. When we asked about the endowment grants, which provide grants to nonprofits, schools, and government agencies for health and wellness initiatives, there was about 68% that said no. It's not an indictment or anything along those lines. There's just, that's an aspect of what they do that was not known. When we went ahead and we started asking folks about aquatic amenities, we asked them to go ahead and to talk about things in terms of how frequent they would use a variety of amenities. So the dark blue is several times a week, the light blue a few times a month, the gray at least once a month, less than once a month, and then the red is seldom or never. The top 5 activities when you start talking about popularity or how often folks would go ahead and use these: deep water, which we defined as more than 5 feet, a current channel or a lazy river, a zero depth entry pool, warm water / therapy pool, or lap lanes. Those all kind of align with one body of water until you hit that lap lane. And all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, that's a little, one of those is not quite the same as the other. When we went ahead and we asked folks to go ahead and say, give us your top 3, right? We said, here's everything, how frequently would you use it? Then we came back and we said, what are your top 3? What are the top 3 things that you think you'd like to use? Out of those activities, that current channel or lazy river was the most popular, followed by deep water, followed by warm instruction / therapy pool, and then lap lanes. So people always bristle a little bit when we go ahead and we talk about a lazy river and they talk about, okay, well, it's a lot of fun and are there inner tubes and those kinds of things. Pools really have kind of a daily life cycle. And that lazy river early in the morning, there's more people walking against the current than there are walking with the current. I've talked with a number of pool designers and I say, is there any way we can go ahead and we can put essentially receptacles for coffee cups? Because everybody brings their travel mug of coffee and they set it on the island and they're walking around, and it's as much about social as it is getting exercise. When we started talking about pool components, then we switched over to aquatic programs. There's a lot of different things that people can go ahead and do in a pool, and your favorite thing to do in a pool is about as easy as going ahead and identifying a perfect water temperature. There isn't one. So we go ahead and we ask folks, you know, how frequently are you going to go ahead and participate in programs? The top 4 programs that we heard from folks: water fitness classes / water aerobics, open recreation, swim and play, which is a program in itself, senior aquatic programs, and lap swimming. Again, you go ahead and you start talking about those, you start to really have this idea that there's going to be, in an ideal world, more than one body of water. When you start talking about which are you most likely to participate in, so again, what's your top 3? That open recreational swim and play goes ahead and jumps up to number 1. Water and fitness classes drop down, senior aquatic program, and then lap swimming. Those are really core programs to aquatics facilities. It's not uncommon that you see some variety of those in the top 4, but it's definitely a positive. When we went ahead and we talked about different important aspects of an indoor pool, you know, just asking folks, what's the most important things to consider as you develop an indoor facility? Fees and cost to use it came in as number 1. Classes and programs offered was number 2, and then fun features and amenities was number 3. So those are some things to go ahead and think about as it relates to the planning of a pool, and it's going to greatly impact the operational model that we look to develop. When we went ahead and we asked for which items, again, we're asking for prioritization, which should receive the greatest emphasis when planning. Obviously, fees and cost to use was number 1, classes and programs were number 2, and then the fun features and amenities. Pools, by their very nature, they're one of the most expensive amenities to not only build, but one of the most expensive to operate. We've joked with folks a lot that when you go into a pool and you hear the water going down the drain, it's not just water, but it's money going down the drain as well. But it's an amenity that the public is very passionate about. When we asked folks about the maximum distance people are willing to travel, remember this was going out to both counties. If an aquatic facility had the features and programs that you were looking for, 60% of respondents, 59% of respondents said up to 30 minutes. So Branson's already kind of a hub and someplace that people are coming to on a regular basis. This goes ahead, and if this amenity were here, it goes ahead and creates that other attraction, right? I'm going to travel from a distance to this location, stay here for a period of time, spend dollars in your community, those types of things. I've been doing this for 17 years now, and I don't remember when we had this overwhelming of a response to a question like this. When we asked, is it valuable for Stone and Taney County School Districts to use an indoor pool for their physical fitness activities or swim teams, 91% of respondents said it was. That's a pretty significant amount. Those groups were actually, we spoke with them also in our focus groups and our stakeholder meetings, and I think there's an interest there, but I think they're also reserving some decision-making until after they have a better idea of what we're talking about. When we asked folks, compared to other recreational needs in the area, how would you and your household rank the construction of an indoor aquatics facility? 54% of respondents are saying that it's very important, followed by 29% saying it's important. So close to 80% are going ahead, over 80% are saying that it's important to very important, and only 6% saying not important is pretty significant. We're getting to the point of putting the operational plan together, but it's always important for us to go ahead and ask about finances as it relates to this. We did not want to put anything out there and talk about what a potential monthly membership might be or daily admissions or those types of things. But we did want to make it clear that this is not necessarily going to be a free-to-use amenity. So we went ahead and we asked folks a preferred method of paying to use an indoor facility, aquatics facility. Monthly membership and annual membership were the overwhelming response. Only 7% said they were not willing to pay. Another 17 are saying punch passes. 13% are saying daily admissions or fees. Most operational plans we're putting together at this point have that level of variety within them. We go ahead and we recommend a daily fee. We recommend a punch pass. We recommend an annual fee, and how that annual fee then also breaks down to a monthly fee. So I think that there wasn't anything that was really surprising out of this one, other than the fact that 7% said they weren't willing to pay. Usually, especially when you're talking about a recreation amenity, you see that number be higher. So I thought that was very positive. When we went ahead, and this is the last one, it's kind of nauseum by numbers. This is the distribution of when we asked folks how many people are in your household and what ages they are. So there was a really nice distribution in terms of the ages. There was a very even distribution between the two counties as well. So some demographic information that we went ahead and that we put together. When you look at the two counties together, it's approximately 90,000 people. That's going to be important in a slide or two when we talk about some National Recreation and Park Association statistics. Median age is approximately 46.9. Typically, we like to have a younger age group to go ahead and talk about significant users of facilities. However, pools by their very nature, aquatics by their very nature, is one of those activities that goes ahead and addresses the full age spectrum. So when you start talking about a multi-generational facility or a facility that addresses multi-generational needs, pools fall in that category. In terms of median household income, approximately $58,500, less than $25,000 a year is about 19%, more than $75,000 a year is 38%, and approximately 23.7% have children, households have children. All of that information is important so that when we go ahead and we develop an operational plan for a facility, we tailor it to these demographics, right? We go ahead and we talk about, we can make any operational plan look good on paper, but is it rooted in the demographics or your community and reflective of your market? So that's why we collect that data. In terms of participation data, we use information from the National Sporting Goods Association in their annual survey. Using that data, approximately 12.3% of the population is going to participate in swimming, or 10,279 individuals. So when you start talking about order of magnitude, how many people are going to go ahead and participate. That's using existing data. About 4.2% of those participating are frequent participants, 29.4 are occasional, and 66.3 are infrequent. The frequency of participation in many cases goes ahead and points to the type of pool or the type of water that folks are looking at. The other thing that's important to note, that adult MPI is a market potential number, and for swimming and for adults in the 2 counties, the rate of participation is already greater than the national number of 100. So you already have an active community that's looking for this. Excuse me. Some facility data that we also went ahead and included. This is from the National Recreation and Park Association. They go ahead and survey their members on an annual basis to talk about numbers of facilities. We included a lot of different options here, but in terms of indoor pools, competitive pools, pools for leisure, aquatic centers, the population will accommodate or can go ahead and support approximately 1.4. How do you have 0.4 of an aquatic center, you might ask? Well, you don't. It's just a mathematical equation, but the reality is it's greater than 1. So if you were just looking at it from a statistical perspective, it would appear that the population of the 2 counties could go ahead and could support a public aquatic center. And there's about 66% of the NRPA membership that are going ahead and offering some type of aquatics programs that to be determined. To summarize the information that we presented to the group support so far, strong support for an indoor aquatics facility via the survey. Again, I've been doing this for a few years, and when I received the results back, number one, having over 200, more than 200 plus per responses, again, goal being 500, 300 and getting 540 plus, speaks to the popularity of the opportunity. The survey also likely points to a 2 body of water scenario. I don't know that you can accommodate everything that folks are looking for with a single body of water. You likely could if budget pushed you in that direction. But if you were talking about a perfect world, you're probably talking about a 2 body water scenario. Total population can support an indoor pool. Socioeconomics is going to have a significant impact in terms of cost recovery for the full building. If this is located at the Recplex, which makes the greatest amount of sense, that's going to go ahead and that's going to adjust what the day-to-day operations of that building looks like and how you go ahead and access and control points and those types of things. So just the population and, again, the income levels is going to impact what that full operation is. A few years ago, the city went ahead and talked with SAP Design, which is an architect in Springfield, Missouri, about how a facility that did have 2 bodies of water would go ahead and would integrate with the existing Recplex. So this is a rendering from that time frame. I believe it was 2018 or 2017, several years ago. But it goes ahead and it shows how that facility, how the addition of a pool would go ahead and how it would interface with the recreation center, with the outdoor pool. So we do know that there's the space there to accommodate a larger facility without going ahead and impeding on the idea that essentially 2 gyms could eventually be added as well. So that's an important point to go ahead and share with the group. I don't know if that's exactly the design or layout that we're going to end up landing on eventually, but it at least goes ahead and shows that it could fit. Also at that same point, actually last year, Habholz Construction put together an estimate for a facility that's very much in line with what you saw on the previous slide. So in 2023, to construct that facility was approximately $13.3 million. We then asked SAP Design and this construction estimate company, what could we go ahead and assume in terms of escalation? And they recommended 5% that we go ahead and look at that. So if you took that $13.3 million and you rolled it 5% increase into 2024, that goes up to 13.9. If you roll that into 2025, it goes up to 14.6. So that's the rate that things are going ahead and escalating at this point. Some other things to consider in terms of the finances. The addition of the pools to the building will likely shift the operational model. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but is it going to be a single membership that gets you access to fitness, gymnasium, pool, or is it going to be more of an a la carte membership? The other thing to take into consideration is the addition of the pools is likely going to increase the annual operation subsidy. You don't see a lot of private groups out there going ahead and building pools. They are, by very nature, not necessarily a revenue generator. However, you go ahead and you add them to an indoor recreation facility, it allows you to charge a higher rate than opposed to just a recreation center with a gymnasium and fitness and those types of things. So that brings me to the last topic of conversation before we go into questions that you folks may have, is that I mentioned we're in the first phase of this study. So we've analyzed the market, we've had stakeholder meetings, we've gone ahead and we've done the survey, and the general consensus is that something like this, something like an indoor pool, would be strongly supported by residents of the two counties. At some point, there's going to need to be a discussion of finances and what the city of Branson is able to go ahead and contribute to a project of this nature. Skaggs Foundation obviously wants to help with the long-term capital and going ahead or the initial capital and getting the building built. However, if the city is going ahead and operating that facility, it also comes to the idea of what kind of expenses is that going to do to our budget? What kind of subsidy might that increase? I want council to at least be able to have that discussion. If there's an unwillingness to go ahead and to support the project in that way, then we probably don't need to do the second phase of the study. If there is a willingness to support, we can go ahead and we can complete that second phase of the study, and in completing that second phase of the study, have a much better idea of the exact dollar amount that we're talking about in terms of annual operating costs, and it would also allow us to drill down a little bit more and figure out, is that the exact facility that we need? Can the facility grow in terms of size? Does it shrink in terms of size? Those different types of things. So I know that we don't have every question answered, but we're kind of at this start-stop point where when we built the scope of services that way on purpose, right? Let's at least dip our toe in the water and find out if this is something that the community is interested in, and then from there, kind of decide if we're gonna continue to push forward and come up with some of those more specific answers. So with that, I appreciate your time. Hopefully I didn't put you to sleep, because that's a lot of numbers at 7:30 on a Tuesday night. So anyways, any kinds of questions you guys have, we'll do our best to answer them, and we'll go from there.
Darren, I appreciate that, and I do also appreciate the fact that you're doing phase one and phase two.
Sure.
Right? Well, you've gathered some information from your surveys.
Sure.
Right, to establish your base information. The question that you ask, I think a lot of that's going to be actual dollar driven.
Okay.
Do we have an interest? You know what, if it costs the city $1,000 a year, we could take a double vote tonight,
Sure, understood.
right? So getting did you say that Skaggs is willing to, Cox?
Skaggs
Foundation, yeah.
Yep.
They're willing to put up the capital to construct the facility?
I don't want to speak for Megan. I think in our discussions that one of the goals of this is to have an idea of what that dollar amount is, and then how much of that they could reasonably fundraise for the project.
Okay.
So they're kind of in that role as well of, okay, if it's $1,000, to use your example, it's pretty, okay, we can do that. If it's $15 to $20 million, that's a very different story. So.
Correct, yeah. Megan?
The Skaggs Foundation, what the board of directors they looked at, they wanted to really make a difference in the community, whether it was a large donation towards one thing in particular, but with the fact of that we have had so many people have interest in an indoor pool and aquatic center of sorts. We thought, let's see where perhaps, and I will just use this as an example, what would $1 million get us? A partnership with the city of Branson, perhaps, if we were to situate this next to the Recplex in particular, But as far as partnership, I know that we have talked about this. I think that between the two parties, would you consider a financial support obligation to entertain that idea of moving forward with an indoor aquatic center? Is that something that we can talk about tonight, which we don't have the dollar amount as of yet, but would you be willing to make a commitment like that?
Well, the dollar figure we have to work with, I believe, is roughly the 16 million.
There's 14.4.
Yeah, but next year's figure,
Yeah, 5%. Yes.
yeah.
But let's say, for example, we would then have to know, where do we go and we get grants? Where do we go to the public and the community for monetary resources? How do we fundraise? How do we, and I think that for all parties involved, would you be interested or consider still moving forward with even the second phase that the Skaggs Foundation has funded, the first and second phase? First phase was $23,000, and the Skaggs Foundation is willing to proceed to the second phase at $17,000 to make sure we do get those concrete numbers so that both parties know, but maybe not move on to the second phase if the city wasn't at all interested.
Sure. Let's hear from the board.
Well, I mean, like you said, Mayor, I mean, I think there's a huge, I mean, why would you not want one? But it all comes down, you know, I mean, you mentioned an increase in membership fees, but what would that be and how long would it take to recoup 14 or 15 million dollars? I mean, I could say, yeah, I'm interested in hearing more, but what is that on us? I guess is you know, I mean, it's hard to go, oh, heck yeah, unless we know, okay, are we into it for 8 million or 3 million or 10 million? So I think the excitement level changes when the dollar amount changes, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think Darren cautioned us before, it's not just the upfront cost, right? I think this is gonna be a loss leader annually, right? It's gonna require subsidy annually. I do believe that there's a desire for it, right? To what level, I'm unsure, and we're unsure of the dollars. Ruth, do you have a feeling to share?
Well, I think this would bring a lot to the community.
Sure would.
It's been asked for many times. A lot of different entities have been discussing having this type of enjoyment in our county, and that would be great. But I'm with Clay too. We need to look at the finances and how is it going to affect us long run. But the return on investment is something we'd really need to look at too, a model.
And
Can I ask a follow-up question? When you say return on investment, what do you?
Well, I know that the city or the Skaggs Foundation, we're not looking at it like an investment that we're going to get, but just how many people would actually be interested in doing this and getting their memberships, and just to see how that would even, how close it would come.
And Darren, also, I think that on our initial discussion, we were talking about the opportunities of having some competition. And there were the half lanes and full lanes and.
Yep.
So that would fall under Cindy's world, right? So we are growing exponentially into the sports marketing.
Right.
And this would be another element in that sports marketing umbrella. So our community, I think, is a little unique. I think it's why our convention center does so well, is it's having a lost leader, if you will, but bringing in that many more people into our community. There's the economic impact that Branson enjoys that other communities may not.
Right.
Ralph.
Yeah. So I guess the thing that kind of stood out to me was the overwhelming response that you got from your surveys. And I think that speaks to the level of interest when you talk about an unknown. I mean, the fact that this is what you do.
Right.
And to hear that you haven't had that big a response to this kind of request, I think really got my attention in this sense. And, you know, we always talk about what is the city's responsibility, and it's, you know, public safety, utilities, and quality of life.
And
this-
aquatic centers.
Cindy, could you do something with him? And I think that quality of life aspect is our return on investment. I mean, it truly, it matters, you know, because when you talk about the ability for people who are challenged in movement type situations to be able to do that in an aquatic center, in a pool with less weight resistance, you know, that in turn is a dividend that we can't see in dollars and cents, but as a functional member of society, that really has an impact. And, you know, again, we did turf last year, and look at the impact that that's had on attracting those softball games and baseball games. I mean, it's been hugely overwhelming. And again, you know, the idea of attracting swim meets and things like that, I mean, it just plays into a direction that, you know, I think up until a couple of years ago, thank you, COVID, actually, that got us on the map for sports. And this is just another feeder system that I think is, I think we have a huge responsibility to investigate this further. I think if we don't, we'd be doing ourselves an injustice, because I think there are a lot of things that are unknown, but the things that are known are the numbers that you presented tonight, and I think that was very impressive, and I think you were impressed with them. And I say that, you know, if we don't do phase two, then we just shut our foot off. So, and we do have our Cindy. I don't know if you met our Cindy. She is absolutely amazing at finding money for some reason. She's very good at it. I'm all for it. I think it's amazing. I think it's a great opportunity for us.
And Randy Bashir, he's on my board of directors, and we were talking earlier about it. And as far as economic impact, Greensboro, North Carolina, they've got a huge aquatic center, and there was a study of how many of those meets, you know, like swim meets, to host during a certain time frame. So if you host 4 in 1 month, the economic impact at a hotel room at $150 was $1.6 million to the community.
There you go.
So there is definitely an economic impact when hosting and bringing in those competitive tournaments, for sure.
And when we get to, again, we showed you a rendering, right? And that was an idea. It was an idea from a few years ago, and some of the data that we've received so far kind of supports that idea, but there's nothing that says, as we go into this second phase, we can go ahead and look at things. Maybe one of the options that we look at has some lap lanes and a separate leisure pool. Maybe the other one has more of a competitive body of water, not a big 50-meter pool, but more, maybe it's 8 lanes or 10 lanes and a separate instructional pool, and run some of those economic impact numbers. So that's very easy to go ahead, easy in quotes, to put that information together.
Glenn?
First, I want to thank the Skaggs Foundation, the board members that are here. I think what you've done is just fantastic, your leadership in taking on, evaluating a project like this, so very appreciative of that. Excuse me. From my perspective, you've absolutely got my support to keep going on this, because I think you've heard it from every alderman already. We just need to see some more money some more operational dollars, some of those kind of things to really start to appreciate what the commitment would be and response from us. The one thing I'd ask you perhaps to focus on a little bit more, the mayor mentioned it, Ralph mentioned it, but I think a different kind of focus is this issue of competitive sports. When we kicked off the work for our convention center to look at expanding the convention center, one of the main themes we hit on them with is we're looking for things to fill up our tourism industry, particularly from January through April. Okay, now one of the things that you've got here is competitive swimming, and that's a perfect sport for that time of the year. However, I think it takes much more work than just saying we're going to have 5 or 8 competitive swim lanes to bring in a state convention or state contest of swimmers here, or even a national contest to Branson, because then you talk about economic multipliers will blow your $1.6 million away. I mean, that's just a drop in the bucket to if we can bring in major events in that time of the year. So my ask of you is, as you flesh out this plan a little bit more, is specifically ask and answer the question, what does a full-out competitive swim facility look like? What does that do to the structure? What does it do to the build-out? And what are the possibilities of us attracting the state tournament here or national tournaments here if we had that kind of facility? Thank you.
Definitely, thank you.
Kathy?
Megan, Darren, thank you so much for coming tonight. And there's a couple of things I just want to put a little bit of color into the conversation here. And I appreciate the board's support. I do think it's something worthy of proceeding further on for sure. So I think that's terrific. These decisions, though, wouldn't be made in a vacuum because we've got conversations ongoing now about expansion of the convention center. There's conversations going on in the community about a sports facility and how much the city would be willing to invest in a project like that. In those conversations, we're also talking about alternative ways of funding and structuring not just the build, but the operations of these facilities, and public-private partnerships, the P3 type models. And there's several variations of that, and I'll be giving you guys a briefing on that probably this fall to let you know where we are and probably in a study session environment. But there's a lot of big, great ideas going on at the same time. And so as we're talking about investing and bonding, right, on behalf of the city, those are things I just want to remind you of that we've kind of got right here on the precipice, getting ready to start to move forward in conversations. The last thing I'd say is from the city's perspective, one of the most important things is operational costs. Because I've heard numbers from anywhere of $300,000 to $500,000 a year to operate a facility of that size. I don't know if that number is legitimate or not. Okay, that's good. So having the next phase of your study, if that can be boiled down a little bit, that would be really helpful too, so that these folks can make a really informed decision on future obligations besides just the initial construction. Again, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank the foundation for your willingness to invest in what would really be a jewel of a community asset, bar none. So there's no arguing that. I just think it's going to be part of a bigger jigsaw puzzle and making sure we can fit those pieces together in the best economical, responsible way we can. So thank you.
Agreed. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Anything else? Anybody in the audience? Yeah, Lane.
So good evening. First of all, my name is Lane McConnell, and I currently serve on the City of Branson HR Committee and also the Parks and Rec Committee. And I'm a proud member of the Branson School Board, along with Mr. Alex and Mrs. Boss here. First of all, I want to say my family moved to Branson 15 years ago. We had a brand new baby that was 3 weeks old. We chose Branson for number 1, Table Rock Lake, number 2, the school system. And as a mother of 2 who both kids play competitive sports, soccer, baseball, golf, basketball, used to be softball too, I can tell you that one thing that has been missing in Branson, and I say this because we have played baseball in Florida, Kentucky, Tennessee, we play basketball in Chicago and everywhere else. My daughter plays competitive soccer in about every state besides Missouri. When the temperatures are, something's going on with the temperatures, it's raining, it's storming, we go find an indoor water park. And I can tell you from any other baseball mom, they'll tell you the same thing. And we play baseball, softball, soccer, basketball year round. It's part of it. And I have to commend Cindy and her staff, first of all, on the turf project. I'm so excited about that. Wish it would have happened 10 years ago when our kids were really in the heat of all of that. But it's been a huge thing. I live across from the Recplex. I live in Branson Hills. I see The ball field's being utilized almost every single weekend with the World Series and multiple other tournaments that are coming here. That is just one aspect, and the same thing would happen with the pool. I'm a mother and a business owner, and I'm an advocate of all things Branson. And tonight, after watching the presentation on the pool and also being part of the surveys that were part of that as too, I just want to encourage the council to be open-minded, and I'm so happy to hear that you guys want to move on to the second phase of this project, because I think it's very important. 91% of your community, of the almost 600 respondents, were very supportive of this, and I can tell you that when I came here, I asked, why don't we have a pool? Why do we not have a pool? 10 years ago, I was like, why don't we have a pool? We've had lots of, being a school board member, I hear it from parents that have kids that do swim meets that have to go all the way to Springfield for practices. I hear it from parents that are down in Harrison, Arkansas. Luckily, Harrison's getting an aquaplex now. Same as Sedalia and a lot of other communities. My parents just sold our family farm and retired to Branson on the lake. And my parents, my dad, a big burly farmer, was like, hey, why don't we have an indoor pool? I thought I would be able to get some, workouts in. And I was like, well, Dad, I'm working on that. So it's not just my generation, it's also my dad's generation. One thing I want to talk about is there's 3 purposes of this project. And when I got on the Parks and Rec board, that was the first question I asked Cindy is, hey, why do we not have an indoor pool? Help me to understand that. We are a tourism community. We have 10 million people come here to Branson every single year. A lot of them are families that have kids that would be utilizing the pool. And so I asked her that, and I understand where we were back then when it first came through. But right now, there's 3 purposes. Our youth, our retirees, and our tourists. That's how I see a aquaplex of some sort being utilized within Branson. An indoor facility would benefit our community as a whole, from the littles learning to swim, our teenagers competing in swim team meets, our retirees that would utilize the pool year-round for exercise and rehabilitation through the hospitals, and more than 10 million tourists that bring their children, their grandchildren, and their friends to vacation, whether they're coming to stay at a hotel or whether they're coming to a short-term rental in Branson. They're coming here. It's a multi-generational community that we have built, but we're not hitting all of those generations right now. And I truly feel that an aquaplex would help us utilize that. I totally understand the finance part, and as a board member, I totally understand transparency and that it has to, we have to have the money. I do feel as though this is an opportunity for us to bring more stakeholders to the table to fund this, whether it's private, public, city, however that is. I've seen other communities do it, and I can tell you as a Parks board member, I am totally 100% behind trying to help fundraise and trying to help grant write to get that done with Cindy, because I'm a true advocate for all things Branson, and I feel like we are really missing the boat on not having this aspect in Branson. We do have some other similar ones with Grand Country, but not like what we're talking about. It's very, very different. And as a person that's gone to lots of different communities, I can tell you we've gone to lots of different water parks that incorporate not only just the swimming pool, but also have some type of lap lane, lazy river. When people come to a tourist destination, they kind of expect that be there. And we are missing the boat right now. So as a Branson community member and Parks Board member, I would just like to say thank you for hopefully moving forward on phase 2, and anything that I can do to help, I'm here. Thanks.
So Lane, how do you really feel? Thank you for that, Lane, very much. Yes, sure, Bobby.
Hi. As a former competitive swimmer, I started an age group, high school, college. Number one, high school and college usually does a 25-yard pool, but when you get into elite swimming like the Olympics, it's a 50-meter pool. And let me tell you, that's hard switching. But I look at this project as something to do for our community. A lot of times when I'm sitting here in these meetings, a lot of it, we got to get the tourism, which is good, keeps our taxes low. I was just on vacation last week, and people go, oh, yeah, I've been to Branson. I'm like, yes, thank you for keeping my taxes low. But on the other hand, I always feel like, what's in it for me? As a competitive swimmer, I'd love to get back in a lap pool. I also love water aerobics. I think that's really important. And we are surrounded by water. We have a lot of little kids in this town. We need swim lessons because we need to keep those kids safe. And I think that's really important, and that's about it. Yes, if you can believe me, I was a swimmer.
Thank you very much, Bobby.
And that was Bobby Wydeen for the record.
Anybody else in the audience like to share? Alex?
Good evening, Board. Alex Williams. I have the pleasure of getting to serve on the Finance Committee, so I'll begin with saying the project has to pencil, so I understand that. I was going to share a couple of things that came to my mind when I think about the aquatic facility for the community, and first, the schools. Because in addition to the Finance Committee, I have the opportunity to serve with Lane and Carolyn as well on the school board, and when you're looking at the schools, you want to talk about an opportunity to expand our curricular programs and our extracurriculars. So when folks are looking at where do I want to raise my family at, where do I want my kids to go to school, they're going to consider what does that school have to offer. And Branson's got a tradition of excellence. This would be another opportunity. Right behind that, you're going to say, well, when you're attracting other family members here, the residual effects are the expansion of the tax base. That's going to increase property values, which is going to lead to other tax-based revenue that's going to benefit the school district and the community. Economic development. I know we talk about the 12-month economy, so Alderman Scholes, I appreciate the comments there. We want to continue to find ways to fill the gap, and that's another opportunity. We're talking about economic development where folks are, you know, as a family member, I've followed those folks with the Branson Waves, your local community, traveling to 4 state regions, spending multiple days in these other communities. They've been beneficiaries of Branson residents. It would be nice for Branson residents to be beneficiaries of these same caravans that religiously travel throughout these 4 state regional areas. And then health and wellness, obviously partnering with Skaggs Foundation, there's going to be a benefit to them, so they are a stakeholder. You're going to add other opportunities for the health and wellness of the community in Taney and Stone counties. Saving lives. I taught at C of O for 5 years, patriotic ed, and one of the weird reasons, I don't know why, the swim test was a requirement for that class, and I got to see just how many people, 18-year-olds, who do not know how to swim, and it comes down to a matter of saving lives, and I would encourage you to think about, you know, the presence of a facility like that will attribute to the development of the ability to swim, which results in saving lives. So I encourage you to think about that, and then in a quick cursory search, Craft and Toll is a community development company that did a study on St. Charles, just up the road from here. Their aquatics facility, which is not a robust aquaplex, generated right around $12 million in economic impact over a 3-year period. So looking at the $14.4 million project with the 5% inflation that ensues, it would be great if we could continue to explore the opportunity with Phase 2 and partnering with Skaggs and other folks. It will pencil. We just have to make it a priority, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Alex. Anybody else like to share? Any other comments from the board?
Mayor?
Yes.
Just the idea of stakeholders were brought up a couple of times, and I can't let the opportunity pass since we have 3 school board members sitting here. Certainly, this is an opportunity to work into the formal sports programs at the schools. So I wouldn't think it would be too early for the school districts to start an internal discussion on your board about how you would financially participate in a project like this and what that would look like. I think there's a great opportunity. It'd be a fractional cost compared to if a school tried to build one of these and operate it on their own. And so I think it would be a healthy time to start that discussion in your board as well, to say, what does it mean to the school? And taking that, what does it mean that we can contribute to the project? So I'd appreciate that. Thanks.
C of O may have an interest also. Any other questions, comments? we're not voting on anything other than I hope you heard the message that we'd like to move forward with the next phase, or we would encourage that. Okay. Yes. Need to speak in the mic, please.
We put books in it, can we call it a library?
Oh, oh. Cindy, thank you so much. Madam Clerk.
So our next two items are a special TDD agenda items. The first one being a joint meeting of the property owners of the Branson Landing Transportation Development District, and the second one being the Board of Directors meeting. There's a separate guide for that, and I'm going to let you take it away.
Well, there it is. So I am calling a joint meeting to order and asking Hill to do a roll call of the property owners of the Branson Landing Transportation Development District.
Lucas, Denham,
Yes.
Cooper,
Yes.
Milton,
Yep.
Howden, LeBlanc, Schultz.
Yep.
Your Honor, you have a quorum.
So I will now entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the property owners meeting of August 22, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. So I will now entertain a motion to vote 61 shares to elect Alderman Marshall Howden and 61 shares to elect Alderman Ralph LeBlanc to the Board of Directors of the Branson Landing TDD, each for 3-year terms that expire April 2027.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it.
So let the record reflect that the city as the sole property owner within the Branson Landing TDD has elected Alderman Marshall Howden and Alderman Ralph LeBlanc to the Board of Directors of the Branson Landing TDD, each with 3-year terms that will expire April 2027.
That concludes the items scheduled for the Branson Landing TDD property owners meeting. I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn the property owners meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. The meeting of the Branson Landing TDD property owners is adjourned. Now, there is a joint meeting of the Board of Directors for the Branson Landing Transportation Development District is now called to order. We get a roll call vote, please.
Lucas, Denham.
Here.
Cooper.
Here.
Milton.
Yep.
Howden. LeBlanc.
Here.
Schultz.
Here.
Your Honor, you have a quorum.
So Alderman Schultz and Lucas will not participate in this portion of the meeting.
That's correct, and that is because they need to be
They're not
elected as
members,
interim
yeah.
directors, yes.
So need approval of the minutes of the August 22nd, 2023 TDD Board of Directors meeting.
So moved.
Second.
The first item on the agenda is approval of minutes. I will now entertain a motion to approve. We had a motion and a second. Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it.
All right, Your Honor, this is Resolution 2024-01, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Branson Landing Transportation Development District electing interim directors to fill the vacated terms.
Madam Secretary, do I have a motion electing Glenn Schultz and Artie Lucas as interim directors and adopting Resolution 2024-01?
So moved.
Second.
A motion is second. Any discussion from the board? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it.
Your Honor, this is a resolution 2024-02, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Branson Landing Transportation Development District appointing officers of the district.
And Alderman Schultz, you're now invited on this. That was not intended to be funny. That was informational. I think they laugh every time I talk. I don't know. Do I have a motion appointing officers and adopting the resolution?
So on this one, we need the names of the people that are going to be appointed as chairperson, executive director, vice chairperson, secretary, and treasurer. And there's a list in front of you of the current members, if that's helpful. So just if you could include that in your motion. Not everybody.
So you're looking for the names to fill these 4 positions?
That is correct.
So Clay, just. Yeah.
This will be fine. I move to appoint Ralph LeBlanc as chairperson and executive director. Congratulations, Ralph. I also move to appoint Glenn Schultz as vice chairperson, Ruth Denham as secretary, and Marshall Howden as treasurer.
Wow.
How's that sound?
Do I have a second on that?
Second?
Second.
There's a couple hesitant seconds over there. Any discussion from the board of directors? Let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Congratulations, Ralph. You're gonna need a new longer name tag, that's right.
He's gonna be great.
Your Honor, this is a resolution 2024-03, a resolution of the Board of
Bless you.
Directors of the Branson Landing Transportation Development District approving the budget for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2025.
Do I have a motion adopting resolution 2024-03?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion from the board of directors? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Having no other business to come before the Board of Directors, that concludes the meeting of the Board of Directors for the Branson Landing Transportation Development District. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Did you get the vote there, Hill?
Yes, good job, everyone. That was great.
So the meeting of the Board of Directors for the Branson Landing Transportation Development District is adjourned.
Good job.
And we're back to here.
Yes.
So we're at the report section of our agenda. Before we do our report section, we have a distinguished guest in the room. Representative Seitz, is there anything you'd like to share?
For the record, I am State Representative Brian Seitz. Earlier tonight, I was normally I try to attend the Board of Aldermen meetings when I'm not in session. I was speaking before a local church group that asked myself and Representative Brad Hudson to share our ideas for the future and what we're going to do in the State House when I get back there in January and he becomes our senator in January and voted on in November. I want to say that I heard that my primary opponent was coming tonight and that there was going to be some campaigning going on. In the past 4 years, I've never done that sort of thing at City Hall. I don't know that it's very appropriate to have someone campaigning when we're dealing with city business and city agendas and so forth. Any time that I've stepped up to the microphone, it's to comment on a city agenda item or to provide you with legislative updates about what we're doing in the Capitol and how it affects the city of Branson. So I hope this doesn't become a custom. I want to say that, you know, I'm not going to campaign up here, but I've done a great job for you and the city. I appreciate the endorsements of the mayor and all of the Board of Aldermen, and probably if we took a vote in this room, I'd probably win maybe 20-1. And I think that's the way it's going to be in January. I appreciate serving the citizens of Branson, Hollister, Merriam Woods, Rockaway Beach, Walnut Shade. And when I get back there in January and Brad Hudson maintains his Senate seat, you're going to have a win-win in the State House. The legislative priorities of the Branson community will be met at the Capitol in Jefferson City. So I appreciate this opportunity just to say hi. You guys have done a great job over the past couple years. I appreciate the new aldermen that are here. The city is running on all cylinders. I couldn't be more proud of the city of Branson and the surrounding communities. We represent Missouri well through our tourism and just showing America what a good, godly, family-friendly, fun city can be, and that's Branson, Missouri. God bless all of you. Thank you.
Representative Seitz, I'll tell you from myself and this board, we have been very pleased with the results you've produced for this area. Thank you.
Ditto.
Yeah. So, Ruth.
Thank you, Representative Seitz, for being here this evening. Alex Williams, Carolyn Boss for School District. As I was listening to the presentation on the pool, I just realized how blessed I was. I grew up in California. Our high school had an Olympic-sized swimming pool. We had an indoor Olympic-sized swimming pool that was open to the public. We had to pay a quarter to go swimming for 3 hours. And it was at a park, and so we were able to go enjoy that as well. And I'm real excited about us looking into that because, yes, everybody just made some great comments on moving forward and just looking into that opportunity for our residents. Why is everyone laughing at me? Okay.
They're laughing with you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was a long time ago. I think we should charge 50 cents for 2 hours now. But, and I also wanted to compliment our wonderful city leader, Kathy Stepp, all the directors, employees, for the wonderful job that you did during this last disaster with the flooding. It was done so quickly, same with the county, MoDOT. Everyone just did an amazing job. There's so many people, and it makes my heart happy how you spoke with, oh gosh, I forget the lady's name earlier that came in with her concerns. But the city is listening to the citizens still and trying to figure out ways to help in any way they can. So a huge thank you to every employee here at the city. And I'm just proud to be here. Thank you.
Clay?
First, two things. I want to say Michael Woods, the man right there. We was talking about some LED lights out up on the benches that the city owns, and they were, the next day I left my theater and it was just shining bright. I mean, that was quick, dude. So thank you guys for getting on that. And I was just up in Shawnee, Kansas this last weekend. My son plays in a traveling basketball league. And obviously, I'm all for, I think exploring the aquatic center and the pools is a must. We should do that, and what a great asset it would be to the community. But when I was at Shawnee, their city there had 6 basketball courts and 13 baseball fields, and right there. I mean, and it was just packed all day long. We played teams from Chicago, Illinois, I mean from Nebraska. It was incredible. So I see that, and I say that to say, yes, I think the pools would be a huge asset to the community, to the senior market, to the Branson schools, as Glenn mentioned. But also, I think, if the city said, okay, we got $20 million to spend, do we spend that? Do we spend 18 of that on a swimming pool, or do we get 10 more baseball fields and 8 more basketball? If you can only do one or the other, I think that's something that we also need to look at and consider what's going to be the best outcome, what's going to come more, basketball teams, baseball teams, or some swim meets. So the only reason I bring that up because I just left there on Saturday and I saw 13 baseball fields full of turf and every field full, and basketball all day long. They had 6 courts here, and then you drove 15 minutes over to, I think it was called Home Field, and they had 10 courts in this facility, and they were just packed for 3 days, every court. So, I mean, you know, let's not, you know what I'm saying? There's a big need for more basketball gyms and baseball fields as well, so I think we should look at that too. If we only had $15 million to spend, where's our money going to be spent the best, I guess is my question. And I'm not knocking the swimming pool. I think I hope we can do all of it, is all I'm saying. So that's it.
Great input, Clay. Ralph, you got anything? You don't? So Glenn? Glenn, you got to jump quicker, man.
Yeah, a lot quicker than that. So, no, I just, you know, the rain last Wednesday, obviously, you know, kind of took everybody by surprise. But, you know, Kathy, thank you. To the level that you communicated operationally what was going on behind the scenes and just assuring us as a board that, you know, everything was getting taken care of. And I know in my heart of hearts that if there was an issue, then we would have all been, you know, hands on deck and been part of whatever we needed to be. So I wanted to thank you for that leadership. And, you know, it just bleeds over to the reason that our city staff and most of you, some of you are present here and beyond the wall there, steps up every single day and does what you do. And I just want to thank you all. And, you know, it gives me great pride to walk around this community and see the improvements happening on a daily basis, knowing what's going on. And, you know, even though I get cards and actually just emails and text messages of when are they going to fix my road, I'm like, it's coming. Just hold on. We're getting there, you know. But thank you guys all. And Carolyn, thank you for showing up. Representative Seitz, thank you. Alex, thank you, and Lane McConnell was here earlier. Thank her too for just being part of it. I mean, you know, tonight what happened with the short-term rental, you know, I think is just part and parcel of how government should work. You know, and it's listening to the constituents, the residents, the community, and all of those things playing into and really being able to communicate that even though you have a great idea, we have to see how it functions on the back end. And your great idea might not necessarily fit across departments. And so that's what these people and these experts are very good at doing and making sure that when we come up here as a board, we have the best information that we can have to make those decisions. And I thank you all for what you do. So thank you.
Thank you, Ralph. Glenn?
Yeah, so obviously Marshall Howden's missing this evening, and it takes a lot to make Marshall miss a meeting either in person or online because his heart is here with the work of the city. So I just want to reach out to Marshall and wish him our best that he gets well soon and joins us back up here at the board. On the rain issue, I want to say thanks to Kathy. To get the updates, Kathy kept the aldermen updated on the state of things throughout the day with rather detailed email messages, which I was really surprised at given how many fires you were trying to put out. But that was great, really appreciated it. Alex was also very reachable throughout that. He and I were texting back and forth to make sure everything was okay and did he need any help and things, so thanks to Alex as well. Then I had a chance to watch Chief Martin address the press, and I thought he just did an outstanding job of representing the city. To use an expression, you know, he was like oil on water. You know, the whole city was underwater, and there's Ted just explaining, well, no, it's like this, we got that covered, yeah, we're doing this, state's working with us on that. It was great. I really was impressed with Ted's professionalism and how he represented the city. And then I think the one thing that we're still working on, which kind of tugs at my heart a little bit, Stockstill Park got pretty beat up in this one. While part of it's open, some of it's still closed, and I think you've heard it said before, our Branson Hollister Rotary Club is the sponsor for Stockstill Park, and we were all set to do one of our cleanup events that Saturday after the rain, and we got called off by Cindy to not bother to show up and give it a month or so, and we'll be back at it. So, but I appreciate the work there. A lot of comments tonight about the short-term rental. I agree with everything that's said. It was just great to have the business owners so active in this, and then participate with the staff afterwards in such great detail to help make the ordinance even better. But I want to especially thank our staff as well, because what you don't see going on behind the scenes, it was a tremendous amount of work. I put them through the sausage grinder the first time they wrote the ordinance, and little did they realize they were going to go back through it again. So thanks to Cherie, thanks to your entire staff, Kathy, for just an outstanding job in bringing that back to us in a good, orderly fashion. One of the things that's coming up, there's been a lot of talk in the community, it's probably the thing I'm taking the most calls on right now, is the whole crypto mining thing that you've probably heard about. Alderman Lucas and I are holding a community meeting on the 29th at 4 o'clock over here in the convention center. It'll be in the Short Creek rooms 1 and 2, and the south parking lot will be unlocked for free parking, and you can walk right in from there up on the second floor to Short Creek conference rooms. This is really just intended as an informational meeting for the surrounding community to the Commerce Park. But of course, anybody is interested. And what we intend to do is basically go through where we are with the ordinance and talk through the various issues, because this is another one of those very complicated ordinances. It's much like short-term rentals. It's got a lot of components to it. A lot of people have different interest levels in different parts of that based on the conversations I've had. So if you would like a preview to it in a more relaxed setting and a chance to offer your comments to us as aldermen, the mayor, I believe, is joining us at that meeting, so that's great. But it is informal. It's not an official meeting of any kind, but you're welcome to participate. And then I was asked several times, well, what's the schedule for this whole thing? So Planning and Zoning has a special meeting Monday, July 29th. They'll be the first ones to officially start processing that ordinance. If they approve the ordinance and pass it on to the Board of Aldermen, then the aldermen are scheduled to meet at a special meeting that same week on August 1st, which is a Thursday. And that's the only item on the agenda at this point. That'll be the first reading of the bill. And then the second reading of the bill, at least at this point, is scheduled to take place on our regular meeting on August 13th. Okay, so that's the schedule, the 29th, the 1st, and the 13th. All of those meetings have an opportunity for public comment related to that ordinance. And then I also asked Brian Seitz and Brad Hudson, we were together at the Chamber Legislative Affairs Committee meeting on the 19th, to guard against what's happening in many state legislatures in this regard. Both Arkansas and I believe Oklahoma, state legislatures have passed bills which took away every right of a city to regulate crypto mining, everything. So they can just come into your city and basically do whatever the heck they want. And if you follow the interviews on YouTube, the senator in Arkansas who architected that bill now says, well, maybe we didn't think it through clearly, now that they've got data centers that are just wreaking havoc in their residential areas. So we've actually had this come up once or twice, is it, Brian, now, into our state legislature. Fortunately, it didn't get very far, but both Brian and Brad have assured me they will keep that on their radar and make sure to squash any of that kind of nonsense that comes up in state government. Probably didn't have to say anything to Brian. He probably would have done it naturally, but just so you know, our state legislatures are looking out for this as well. And then the last thing, sorry for the long report, the last thing is both Alderman Lucas and I met with the Branson Lodging Association Board, and they passed along several compliments to the city, which I would just like to echo here. They complimented Chief Martin and Chief Smith for their tremendous engagement with their organization and their support of their organization. We also got compliments on our city staff and the way they spend time on the phone to answer questions and explain issues to the hotel owners here. So that was great to hear also. We do have several action items and ideas regarding the hotel inspection process and procedures that we are working through. Kathy and I had an initial meeting about that, but we'll continue to work on that and see if we can come up with some improvements, much as what was talked about with the short-term rental activities, working with the association to try to refine some of our activities as a city. I think it's a great opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You bet. Kathy, you have anything?
So I was just going to gush about our staff and the way everybody pulled together during the significant rain event. I mean, it was ankle-deep water and mud down in the police department and the whole ground floor. But you all really did that for me, so I don't need to do that as well, given the hour. And it is a late hour. It's 8:23. My bedtime's in 7 minutes. As I always remind you guys, 8:30 is my bed, and I might actually make it tonight, so I'm excited about that. But kidding aside, I just want to thank everybody that came tonight, again, to the short-term rental regulated community. They've been absolutely a pleasure to work with. That hasn't historically been my legislative experience in my past, and it was really nice to be able to work with people who wanted to help us solve challenges and to be able to do that together. And we're just getting started. There's several of these kinds of issues around the city that we're looking at bringing like meaningful reforming legislation forward for you all to consider. And when you have an equal participant and partner in a community success like we have, and trust me, this is very unique in Branson. It is not like this everywhere else. And to have that kind of spirit that we all want to better the community together is really a very heartwarming and fulfilling experience for all of us as staff. So I want to thank everybody that participated. And thank you to you all for your support every day and your very gracious comments again tonight, both for me and for my staff. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Mine will be brief. Excuse me, I just wanted to mention that Representative Seitz and I were at the convention center today celebrating our archery tournament, if you haven't heard. One of the largest tournaments we have in Branson, largest events we have in Branson. And it's in March, good time of the year. They just agreed, signed a 3-year agreement. So for the next 3 years, they're going to stay at our convention center. Yep. So that was very good news. And from the director, she mentioned that was one of the big important factors of them choosing Branson, and they searched the world over, was the safety of our community, meant a lot to their kids. How they feel like the red carpet's rolled out to them, how special they feel, and all the events that we have to offer here. So I thought that was great news. So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn the Board of Aldermen meeting?
So moved.
Second.
A motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Thank you all very much.